I think they should be. To just open up political advertising, political influencing, advocacy to artificial intelligence without any thought to regulation would be irresponsible. And you start with transparency, but there's more. There's I think a really interesting bill that Derek Kilmer, who's from Washington State, retiring this year, Protect Elections from Deceptive AI Act, which basically goes back to the Federal Election Campaign Act, 1971, and prohibits the distribution of deceptive AI-generated audio, images, or videos for candidates and political advertisements aimed at influencing federal elections. So I mean, he's going right to the deception part of it.
In this case, yes. As someone who really doesn't favor the heavy hand of government when it comes to regulations, in the case of AI being utilized in campaign advertisements, there is a significant risk that is associated with it. So yes, there is a role for government to play, and it's critical because of the seriousness of the outcomes that we can see as a result of the use of AI.
There's a meaningful debate about constructive uses of AI. And one of the most recent ones is in the Indian elections. One of the candidates was using AI-generated translations of their own voices in the different languages. I don't know how many different languages India has, but it's a bunch. You go all over it. And to be able to do this language here and that language there without having to, and to do the same voice, but hopefully accentless or relatively accentless, that's a pretty responsible use. So the key is deception, and where you're using AI to present an untrue image. And the thought of having ever more ambiguity about what the truth is, if AI contributes to that, I confess it pushes me in the direction of don't let it be used at all.
I see AI as an extension of the First Amendment and free speech. So in order to actually really adhere to the oath that I took to uphold the United States Constitution, and as a believer in free speech, I think that there is a right for individuals to be able to use AI. That being said, it has to absolutely be disclosed, because you can, through the technology that we've seen already, you can take your opponent's face, put them on another person's body, simulate them doing something or saying something, basically create a deepfake pretty easily these days. And in such a fast-paced environment as an election is, voters need to know whether something is real or if it is fake. And so there comes an absolute requirement for disclosure when utilizing this technology.
Incumbents have huge advantages, right? First of all, we go to 400 meetings a year, plus we're occasionally on TV and people hear our names, but not a one of us wants to be defeated because somebody's come in there with an ad that alleges that makes us look like we're endorsing totally crazy things that would alienate our voters.
It wasn't but a few elections ago that text messages became really commonplace in political campaigns. And without the requirement to disclose who is paying for those text messages that we all receive, that we're all annoyed by, people were able to put out messages that were patently false. I have a colleague who had an opponent in their race that put out a text message pretending to be that candidate, another candidate, saying that they were dropping out of the race. And it caused incredible confusion on the day of the election. Not only do people make decisions based on the information that they are seeing, that they are given, there's also the question of, is it true? And if they don't know where that information is being generated from, they could be casting a vote based on manufactured or fabricated information. So it will have tremendous outcomes up and down the ballot, from the presidential level all the way down into local races. So it's going to have tremendous consequences in our country for, I think, the next several years. But this election will be the first time that we've seen AI playing a significant role in the use of advertisements and campaigning.
You go back to the old trope about, you can't scream fire in a crowded theater. There's a lot of stuff that we have restricted under our freedom of speech. It's not an unlimited freedom of speech, and it never has been. And when you look at something that is deeply threatening to society, to the structure of our government, to the way our whole community works, I think we can make a reasonable move forward there.
So, one of the challenges that we have is the jurisdictional issue. You have two players in this space that are basically claiming a stake in the oversight of AI in our elections: the Federal Elections Commission and the FCC. Now, I am a proponent of keeping all electioneering communications under the Federal Election Commission. They are the ones that I believe have the strongest case for the jurisdiction to oversee and in turn hold campaigns accountable. FCC doesn't have the means by which to go after a particular campaign if they step out of bounds.
It's sort of the cybersecurity problem. Every time we figure out how we've made our cybersecurity ever stronger, somebody's able to figure out a way to get in, and we have to make it ever stronger. You probably saw a recent article about using AI to attack a whole bunch of supposedly impregnable websites, and they got into half of them, which is bad, but it's also good because now we'll find the next iteration. It's the AI/cybersecurity version of the arms wars, that where you just get ever greater acceleration, bigger weapons, faster planes, bigger bombs. Tough problem. However, I think the other side of that, though, which I think is really meaningful, is ramping up our digital literacy. Yeah, I was really intrigued by an idea from psychologists, I can't tell you who, that as human beings, we have an innate skepticism about things that we see. There are simple people that believe everything on the first scan, but most of us are looking for verification. We don't believe something just because we heard it once. And we also don't believe things that just don't seem to fit.
Well, I certainly think that there has to be a disclaimer that is readily available for consumers, right? For constituents, for voters. It has to be very prominent. And we have seen certain little loopholes that campaigns can pull when doing disclosures, right? Some things are required to have a disclosure and others are not. I think there needs to be a standard by which every campaign should comply, and then make the penalties for not complying with engaging in AI generated content, make those penalties steep, because we have to send a message that we have a situation in the country where so many people are already questioning the integrity of elections. There have been problems in the past. They want to know that when they go into the ballot box, into the polling booth, that their vote is being counted as it's intended to be cast.
One of the ways to put consumers to sleep is to disclose the information. Once you watch the 90-second TV ad that tells you all the side effects of that drug, most people don't think about it. He said, it's been disclosed. I remember years ago taking the employees over a little automobile dealership and sitting down with them 1 month to show them the financial statement and what we spent all of our money on and how much money we made and didn't make. And everybody came. And the second month, about 10 people came. And the third month, nobody came. That just the fact that there is disclosure lets people relax and often turns off their skepticism.
I am, again, not a fan of mandates, but I think for the sake of the credibility of these organizations and these companies, they're going to want to adopt some of these good faith measures that will really reassure their users and viewers of the content on their platforms that what they're seeing is real, or if it is AI generated, it needs to be disclosed as such.